Uh, our first panel is up Sara Wyant, who is president of Agri-Pulse Communications, Inc., which is a diversified communications firm with offices in D.C., Arkansas, and Missouri, will be the moderator for this panel, and I'll let Sara introduce her own group. She is a veteran farm policy reporter. She's very well recognized on Capitol Hill and by farm and commodity associations across the country. She is the past president of American Agricultural Editors Association. We're delighted to have her here today, and we're delighted she's moderating this panel. Sara?
Well, thank you, Jan, and thanks to all of you for being here. It's really a pleasure to be with such a distinguished group and a distinguished panel of experts here to talk about our subject for this session, which is how we can communicate better about what science can deliver. And I couldn't help but reflecting on when I started my ag journalism career. Didn't graduate from this university, but started out working for Wallace's Farmer magazine, which is a sister publication to Prairie Farmer based here in Illinois. And you know, when I started, we were still setting hot type, and our tools of the trade were primarily typewriters. And a year after I started at Wallace's, we had our first computer, and I actually brought it in from home because nobody in the office had one yet. Now, I know I'm going to date myself here, but, you know, it doesn't seem all that long ago that I brought that big box into our office and said, this is kind of the future of agricultural communications. And you can imagine the folks in my office thinking, what's this young whippersnapper telling us now? How could it possibly be that we're going to have these in our offices? And not only the technology was different then, but the scope of our journalistic outreach was much different. You know, we were doing a story on science, and we might be talking to our land-grant universities and someone from one of the agribusiness companies, and more than likely a farmer. And snap back to today, where instead of that big box that some of us grew up with computer, you've got your tablets and your handhelds, and you can use Google, and the magnitude of the sources that you're going to be looking at has exploded. It's just an exponential difference between when I started my journalism career and the kinds of access that we have now. And I'm not waiting 2 weeks to publish a story. I'm on a 24/7 news cycle, and I'll have my Twitter account here and just with a push of the button announce to thousands of people that I'm tweeting from this meeting. So it has really changed from a technological standpoint, but I would argue that some of the fundamentals of communication are still very much in place. And with us to discuss how things have changed and how we need to continue to improve communications on science-based issues are three very, very distinguished panelists. And their bios are in your brochures, so I'm not going to go into a lot of depth, but we're honored today, and I'm going to introduce each of them, let them come up and present, and then take your questions and have a good dialogue on this subject. First of all is Ed McMillan, no stranger to you here at the University of Illinois, who's sharing his talents in governance on the Board of Trustees. He's an independent business consultant, but someone who I first met when he was CEO of Purina Mills. So Ed is our first panelist. Next is going to be Rob Fraley, who's the Executive VP and Chief Technology Officer for Monsanto, oversees their seed and trait technology and research, and like me, has a junior here at the University of Illinois. And Rob Ackerman, the president of U.S. operations at Elanco Animal Health, who oversees not only the company's U.S. business, but has oversight of the global companion animal business. So without further ado, because I've tasked each of them, I know we're starting a little late, to try to get their presentations into about 10 minutes, and then we'll leave some time for your questions as well afterwards. So with that,